Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the legendary dialogue between the absolute master of suspense, Alfred Hitchcock, and the brilliant French director François Truffaut. These conversations are basically considered the holy grail of film theory, and we're going to unpack Hitchcock's absolute best rules for captivating an audience. So whether you're a filmmaker, a writer, a marketer, or honestly just someone who loves a truly great story, this playbook is going to fundamentally change how you think about holding someone's attention. To keep things moving and actionable, we've organized Hitchcock's brilliant insights into a quick 4-part playbook for storytellers. We'll be looking at slices of cake, the mechanics of suspense, simplifiers and visual storytelling, and finally, emotion over plausibility. All right, let's jump right into part 1, slices of cake, drama versus reality. Hitchcock had this absolutely iconic quote, "Some films are slices of life. Mine are slices of cake." He bluntly rejected the whole idea of filming pure, unfiltered reality. He famously told Truffaut that, hey, people can get a slice of life out on the street or just sitting at home for absolutely free. So why on earth should they pay good money to sit in a dark theater and watch exactly what they just walked away from? He really wasn't interested in making documentaries about the mundane. He wanted to serve dessert. And that brings us to his ultimate definition of drama. He believes stories need to be profoundly human and dramatic. He defined drama simply as life with all the boring, utilitarian scenes stripped completely away. If a scene doesn't push the emotion or crank up the tension, just cut it out. You don't need to show someone parking their car or walking down a long hallway just for the sake of realism. You gotta cut the dull bits. Which leads us perfectly into part 2, the mechanics of suspense, conditioning the audience. To really get how this works, Truffaut and Hitchcock contrast Hitchcock's 2 versions of The Man Who Knew Too Much. He actually made the original back in 1934 and then famously remade his own movie in 1956. Hitchcock himself called the first version the work of a talented amateur and the 1956 remake the work of a professional. And why is that? It's because the remake shows this incredibly precise, calculated control over the audience's attention. He knew exactly where he wanted your eyes and your mind at every single second. He illustrates this buildup of anticipation using a story called The One-Note Man. It was this old comic strip he saw about a musician. Basically, we watch this guy go through an entirely mundane day. He wakes up, gargles, takes the bus to Albert Hall, puts on his tuxedo, and sits on the podium. He waits through the entire symphony, turning the pages, and finally, the conductor points right at him. He blows one single note on his instrument, just a quick bloop, and then he packs up, goes home, and goes to sleep. Hitchcock realized that the entire humor and tension of that comic strip came entirely from waiting for that one single note. So he took that exact concept to make his famous Albert Hall assassination scene work in the 1956 film. The setup is this. A spy is going to shoot an ambassador at the exact moment a pair of cymbals crash together in the symphony, all to mask the gunshot. Hitchcock insists that to make this work, you must actively condition the viewer. You can't just surprise them with the cymbals. He literally has the villains play Record of the Symphony twice earlier in the film, just so the audience learns the tune. He even spells out the word cymbals for the audience, so there's zero ambiguity. The audience has to know exactly what sound to anticipate, so they're left sitting there in agonizing suspense, waiting for it to finally happen. The crucial takeaway here is that suspense is instantly killed by confusion. Hitchcock warns that if your audience is trying to figure out where the characters are, or maybe 2 actors are wearing similar suits and we can't tell who's who, the emotional impact just evaporates. Suspense requires absolute clarity. You literally cannot feel fear or anticipation if your brain is busy doing math trying to figure out the plot logistics. Moving right along to part 3, simplifiers and visual storytelling, controlling the flow. Truffaut notes something super fascinating here. He says that while great painters or novelists might be complicators, adding layers and layers of complex abstraction, a successful director really has to be a simplifier. And Hitchcock completely agrees. He says directors who lose themselves in vague abstractions totally fail to convey emotion to the public. If you're a complicator, you lose control of the pacing, the time element, and ultimately lose the audience. You've got to strip the idea down to its most potent, essential visual form. We see this intense simplification perfectly in his 1935 film, The 39 Steps. Hitchcock uses rapid, relentless transitions to eliminate those boring utilitarian scenes we talked about earlier. Our hero is handcuffed in a police station, but instead of showing a long, logical breakout sequence, the camera pans, a window shatters, and suddenly he's outside blending into a Salvation Army parade. Then he ducks into a hall, is mistaken for a speaker, improvises an election speech, and escapes again using a flock of sheep to block the road. It's just relentless. He uses one idea, dumps it, and moves instantly to the next to keep the excitement incredibly high. He also aggressively favored visual storytelling over dialogue. Think about it. Why have characters explain things when their actions can do it better? He points back to that 1956 Albert Hall scene. Jimmy Stewart arrives late, he knows his wife is in the audience, and he knows an assassin is there too. Instead of some clunky, whispered conversation, Stewart relies entirely on pantomime, just hand gestures and frantic eye contact from across a massive concert hall to explain the impending danger to his wife and the police. Truffaut praises another brilliant visual moment from The 39 Steps. The hero takes shelter in a farmer's house. There's this scene at the dinner table where tension, a secret understanding between the hero and the young wife, and the intense jealousy of the older, puritanical farmer are all perfectly established without a single spoken word. It's just a sequence of stolen glances and silent reactions. It's pure, simplified visual cinema that tells you absolutely everything you need to know about these characters' inner lives. And now for our final section, Part 4, Emotion over Plausibility. The director as God. Truffaut uses a really insightful question to pivot to this topic. He asks Hitchcock about a script change in the original The Man Who Knew Too Much. In the early drafts, the villains hypnotize the hero's wife, who we already know is a crack shot with a rifle. So she'll assassinate the ambassador herself while in a trance. But Hitchcock abandoned the idea. Why would he drop such a cool concept? Well, Hitchcock explains he changed it because he felt that even a great marksman might not aim accurately while under hypnosis. It just didn't make total sense. Now, this shows he really did care about basic logic and setting up rules for his universe. But he only cared about it up to a very specific point. Because ultimately, Hitchcock viewed strict plausibility as incredibly boring. Just listen to this quote. "I'm not concerned with plausibility. That's the easiest part of it, so why bother?" He argued that taking time to logically explain away every single coincidence is just a massive waste of the audience's time. For example, in his movie The Birds, there just happens to be an expert ornithologist sitting in a diner right when the birds start attacking. Is it a massive coincidence? Oh, for sure. But Hitchcock said writing 3 boring scenes just to logically explain why she was in town would have completely ruined the pacing. He draws a really sharp, fascinating line here. In a documentary, the basic material is created by God. It's reality, and the filmmaker just records it. But in a fiction film, the director is the God. You must create life. You have total freedom to juxtapose feelings, manipulate forms, and basically bend reality to serve the emotional truth of the scene. So if he didn't care about plot plausibility, what did he care about? Character logic. He prioritized the relentless logic of a character's nature. We see this with Mr. Memory at the end of The 39 Steps. He's a performer whose entire identity is based on his professional duty to answer any question asked of him. When the hero shouts out a question about the secret spy ring, Mr. Memory is literally compelled by his very nature to answer it, even though the head of the spy ring is sitting right there with a gun. He gives the answer, and he's shot dead. It's not totally realistic, but it has this grandiose, heroic logic to the character that is just incredibly satisfying. Hitchcock completely dismisses critics who demand total credibility. He argues that demanding strict logical realism from a storyteller is like demanding only color photography from a painter. It entirely misses the point of the art form. The goal is to make the audience feel something, not to pass a fact check. So, the crucial point we take away from this masterclass is this. If movies, and honestly all great stories, are meant to be carefully constructed slices of cake designed to manipulate our emotions through clarity and suspense, how do we apply this focused storytelling to our own creations? Are you cutting out the dull bits in your own presentations, your writing, or your projects? Are you conditioning your audience to anticipate the symbols, or are you confusing them with unnecessary details? Take a second to think about your own work. If you cut out all the dull bits, what kind of drama are you really left with? I hope this explainer gave you some incredible tools to start baking your own slices of cake. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep learning.